second motions during the meeting.
I did, okay.
I wonder if that'd work in a grade school classroom. Turn on the lights and the kids quiet down maybe, I don't know. Seems to work here pretty good. Good afternoon. It is 1 o'clock and I will call to order the March 28th meeting of the Oklahoma City Riverfront Redevelopment Authority. I don't have anything under item 2. Item 3 is the meeting minutes from February 28th. Are there any changes or corrections? Need a motion? Cast your vote.
It's not coming forward. I vote yes. I can't get it.
We have been having problems all morning, so.
Okay.
And that passes. Item 4 is a consent docket. We have an oil and gas revenue report, a river corridor events update, and a revocable permit with National MS Society for the Walk MS on April 15th using the South River Trail. Any questions on the consent docket? Need a motion?
Oh, there it goes again. I'll second. It's my job today, all day long.
Cast your vote. And that item passes. Item 5 is the primary agenda items. Item A is the Oklahoma River project summary. You drew the task today, huh? Jill? It was you today, huh?
Yeah, I made the mistake of letting Jess take vacation time, so.
Very good.
Good afternoon, Chairman and trustees. We're continuing maintenance along the river. Amazingly, in February, we removed about 14.75 tons of debris, which considering the small amount of flow we had was kind of unusual. We have a number of projects coming up later this year. They'll be draining the eastern basin as part of the Wakana project. We'll be looking at putting a boat landing in there and doing some shoreline improvements and some other work in that area. We just finished a project at the Stockyard Landing where we added some riprap in there. We included an exciting photograph of that. You know, concrete blocks. So that's pretty much all I have for the report this month. Is there any questions?
Any questions? Need a motion to accept that? Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Second.
Cast your vote. And that passes. Item B is the Oklahoma River Sport Foundation update. Mike?
Good afternoon, Mike Knott with Riversport. some of you have heard this already today, so I'll try to change it up a little bit to keep it fresh. But well, we have a lot going on right now with the spring here. Finally, that photo that you see there it's from a race a couple of weeks ago between OU and Kansas State and Tulsa, and we've really had more activity this spring in terms of like dual racing and events like that with our colleges than we've ever had. So a lot of action right now. Go ahead, David. So I want to start with a quick financial update from 2022. This is the full year on the left. Just a couple notes. The increased revenue above budget was mostly due to our receipt of the ERC employee retention funds that we received. And then also on the expense side, a little higher expense is attributed to the events that we had last August that were the World Cup and the Super Cup that were relocated from Russia. We obviously didn't know we were going to do those until called upon, and it went very well. And we did get contributed support to offset that, but I wanted to highlight that. We don't anticipate anything like that this year, so but it was very well received. For the graph on the right is representative of just January of this year. Obviously, the winter month is always the slow time. It's always somewhat of a challenge, and what we're faced with right now is really relying on contributed support, which our timing's been a little bit slower off on that. So that's where you see some of the lag there, but we anticipate that catching up. We've also had some expenses that we incurred early in terms of the rehab and the maintenance that went on that, again, it's somewhat of a timing issue there. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Okay, go ahead, next slide. As I mentioned, the races are back. A lot going on. The bottom photo is our indoor race that we now have every year at the Whitewater Center, and it grows every year. Lots of participation, even from the photo on the right is from veterans that come out. There's corporate teams and community groups and whatnot. Indoor rowing's become quite a thing, and so we're kind of embracing that. And then, of course, all the events. This past weekend, we had over 600 high school rowers come up for racing. It was just, really a packed house on Saturday, and that's before the May event, which will be the U.S. rowing event, which will be probably twice the size of that. So lots of heads and beds, and which is great. So go ahead, next slide. Jim touched on this a little bit with the river draining. Of course, all of our stakeholders, as you might expect, somewhat panicked when they heard about the 4-month, draining, because it was just a lot of moving parts with all the programs. The collegiate programs start in January, for their racing to be ready, and they race all over. So we're going to, we've assured everyone we will have a plan, and this is in the name of progress, but it's not going to be without a little pain. So we will work through that, and I appreciate everyone's support for that. But you'll note here, I've been working with Dennis and the whole team over there, Don, on the pedestrian bridge. From our perspective, again, we feel it's obviously going to be a great pedestrian transportation link between Riversport and Ocana and First Americans, but also it's going to be a great viewing platform for the starts of the race. And I think, as I said to City Council this morning, we have, I believe, one of the coolest finish lines in the world, and we're soon to have one of the coolest starting lines in the world with the big hotel. As you can see, it's coming up right at the starting line, so that'll be a great place to stay when you're in town for a race. And so the bridge will accommodate that and provide a whole new perspective. It'll be a great place for judges and for stabilizing the dock as well. And the bridge and the buildings and the hotel will actually provide a much needed windbreak to that starting line, which has always been kind of an issue. So U.S. Rowing was here last couple weeks ago with their full board of directors, and they did a tour, many of whom had not been here yet, and they were all very impressed, and not only with our facilities, but with our programming, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. And they're very interested in this because of the idea of bringing more and more major events to Oklahoma City, which really begins with 2024 and the Row Fest, which will be a huge event. So go ahead, next. This photo is very exciting for us. It may not look terribly exciting to you, but it is. There's all these pumps. That second level was not there before. So that all of that is new filtration, and that's what our red dirt makes us do. I mean, it's this. I mean, we have some conditions really unlike anywhere in the world, apparently. So we believe this is going to be very successful with this glass media filtration. We're firing it up this week. If you go to the next slide, David. This is the pool as it looked a couple weeks ago, and really for a couple of months. Our team really, I mean, I got to hand it to the staff. I mean, they just put a ton of work in power washing the entire channel, and that's, well over 8.2 million gallons. And then those pits on the right, you see those 6 pits. Those are very deep. They're very difficult. In fact, a little interesting seeing them go down into those pits, cleaning and bringing all that stuff up. They hauled out a tremendous amount of mud and debris, and the water is back in. It's not all the way up yet, but you can see the bottom, and I've never seen the bottom, from standing on the side. So now when we fire the pumps up, that'll obviously stir it up, but we're anticipating that filtration will hopefully pull out all that dust. So I think you're going to see some really significant changes in terms of the appearance of the whitewater this year. So, as I mentioned, spring operations well underway with our adventures. They opened during spring break, and fortunately, if you recall, it was really cold. It was not the best time to want to be on a 70-foot tall ropes course, but nevertheless, last weekend we did host Metro Family's Thrive Fest, which is all devoted to health and wellness, family fitness, and we had lots of, over 1,000 people, families coming out, and lots of nonprofit partners out throughout the whole venue. It was packed. It was great. At the same time as the regatta, and there was a wedding. So, I mean, we always are there's a lot of things that go on. So go ahead, next slide. It's also the time that our youth rowing league is up and running again. We have more teams now than we've had in a long time, now that we're fully out, we're pretty far out of COVID, and we have Douglas High School that just started 2 weeks ago. We're really excited about that. We've been working on that for a little while, and as a result of the really significant growth and the impact of this program, Impact of Oklahoma has chosen Riversport as a finalist for their Impact Oklahoma grant. It's very, very competitive, and there's only 3 that they've and so we're going to have a presentation in May, but I think it's just representative of the power of that program. The photo on the right is at Lake Overholser, where we have our youth league out there as well. That's the Mustangs program, and then on the left, I'm not sure which one that is, but we have, again, many programs, kids from across the metro, and specifically our urban schools. As a note on this, Arshay Cooper is coming again today, and he's going to be speaking at St. Luke's tomorrow. If you are looking for something, it's very inspiring. He was out last year, and he is so excited about what Oklahoma City is doing with the sport. And he's here today because he's going to be visiting with the Douglas High School team. So they're going to have quite a treat meeting him this afternoon. Go ahead, the next slide. And then that kind of leads us to public school engagement. We've worked really closely with Oklahoma City Public Schools. We actually had their esports tournament there at the Boathouse in last November, and as part of a way to kind of be a gateway in to kids. And now all the athletic directors came and met with me, and I did a presentation about a month and a half ago, and they all want to be involved. And so we're just trying to build that capacity to really grow this program. We're actually going to be getting a fleet of new boats in for this program in May, thanks to some of our great partners with Mercy Hospital and CompSource and some others. So we've had the same boats for 12 years, and so this is going to be quite a great treat for these and allow us to grow the program. And then this photo on the right is that's Del City, so they're actually rowing now. So go to the next slide. We're really excited about River Bowl, as is Arshay Cooper. Shantae Alexander is pictured there. She has really taken the lead with our staff and building this River Bowl program, which was the first one was last August. And all of those folks in that photo are representing different high schools, historically black high schools in Oklahoma City, and they had a great experience. In fact, many of them continue to row to this day, and they're going to be in the leagues. This year, they're going to bring in kids to row with them from the schools, and we're going to have a big regatta as associated with the River Bowl in August. We believe that it will be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, African-American regatta in the history of the sport, which rowing is the oldest intercollegiate sport in America. So to make history in that sport is kind of a big deal. So we're excited about that, and U.S. Rowing's excited about that, and I think it's really, there's just a huge opportunity and it's just so great to see so many people from all different parts of the community coming down and now getting involved in our programs. Go ahead, next slide. And then the great addition of Barquet. I mentioned this at the last meeting. It's been a huge success. The weekends are just totally packed. As Chairman Morris said, it's great food too. So looking for somewhere, they're trying to get the word out that you can come at lunch and you don't need a dog, and it's just a really great environment. You'll see our old oars hanging above the bar, and it's a really good complement to everything else at Riversport. Next slide. And then this is just an image of our sponsorship approach this year with everything. We're really dividing it up between venues, events, and programs. A real focus on programming for this year as we bring in all these new schools and community programs in anticipation of next year with RowFest. We want to have a lot of our community involved as that big national event comes. We've got a lot of great partners, as you can see. Go ahead to the next slide. Champagne and Oysters is coming on April 14th. It's always a really fun event. It honors, and not only honors, but it helps support our Olympic hopefuls here in Oklahoma City. So that program is poised to now grow. The University of Texas, believe it or not, are the national champions in rowing, in women's rowing. Our UCO program for Division II, not this year, but have been 3-time national champions. And so we're really seeing that Oklahoma City becomes a place for these athletes, and we got some of the best in the middle of the country to come here and train. So this is to support them. Go ahead, next slide. And then finally, I mentioned actually before at last month that we are ranked as the 11th best place to learn to ski and snowboard in America, believe it or not, by Men's Journal. We've seen a lot of action on that indoor slope, Ski OKC, this year, and that's been great. It gives us an indoor activity, which is obviously much needed. And then our canoe kayak program is recognized as one of the top in America by Dive In, and then we are one of 50 businesses in America to be honored as a bicycle-friendly business recently, so that's very exciting. And that really correlates with the new bike park expansion that we're currently working on. Hope to have that complete by the fall now. And that's all I have, if there's any questions.
Any questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you.
It was just as good the second time.
Yeah.
Not a little better?
Motion to receive that?
Second.
Cast your vote. And it passes. Item C is Oklahoma River Cruisers construction update.
Good afternoon, Chairman, trustees. I'm Joel Garcia with Embark. I come to you today just to give you an update on some of our construction updates. As you know, back in late September, early November, we started a project at Regatta. Let's go to the next slide. Which we had a lot of small minor repairs that needed to be done. Some of the things that we did accomplish, as you can see, precast stone, we had several that were damaged along the, that had been damaged over the years. We went in and we replaced those. Repainting of all the rails, the handrails, also securing some that had become loose. As you look at the image, we also repaired some of the concrete. Some of it had begun to show some wear cracks, also settled. So we went in and we replaced some of the flat work along there. Next slide, please. Thank you. The main area where we sell our tickets needed some repair and attention as well. We did go in and put new shingles there, also new guttering and some work along the fascia of the facility as well. Next slide. Underneath the pavilion area, we had a lot of cleaning, a little bit of housekeeping to do. Several of the birds had gotten under there and just created a little bit of an unsightly mess. So a lot of that was cleaned up. We did put some additional new netting up there to prevent some of that in the future. So that was taken care of as well under this project. Next slide. And then, of course, the biggest part of this was reworking the parking lot. We did go in and we did mill the parking lot down, as well as restripe it to clean up the area. What you do not see, what I was unable to get a picture of, we did also go in and add a ramp to the loading area where our river guests board our boats. There was a small area that needed to be addressed to meet some ADA requirements, and so that was also added, and I apologize, just was unable to get a photo of that. This project is going to be our next project on our upcoming list. Meridian Landing. As you know, we did put a pavilion there for our guests, and as we got into it, COVID hit, and then we were unable to really capitalize. A little bit of things have occurred over time that have required us to come in and look at this and start targeting, like we did Regatta, some of these smaller items to address. So we will be coming in and in the pavilion reworking some of the flat work. Some of it has been broken up. Someone started a fire in there, and we're going to go ahead and get that cleaned up and get that repaired. Next slide, please. As you can see, some of the riprap also needs to be cleaned up. And as Jim showed you at Stockyards, they did some bank stabilization. We as well will probably be looking at some bank stabilization at this particular landing. And then we'll also be addressing some washout that has occurred underneath our ADA ramps, as well as around the stair area. These will be some areas that we'll be targeting leading down to the dock. Next slide, please. Our parking lot. So we will also be addressing the parking lot as well here, looking to do a mill and overlay on this as well. And of course, coming in and restriping this. A project that we've all kind of heard about from our two past speakers here just a minute ago, Okano. When Jim lowers the river, we'll also be working for our new FAM landing. We're very excited to work with Okana and have our river boats there. Some of the amenities that we will see there is a fixed landing is what we're currently looking at. We'll also be having a landing area for a future entertainment stage area that will be right next to the MAPS 4 pedestrian bridge. So we're very excited for this. We're hoping construction starts later part of this year, and we're hoping for completion in May of '24. Last slide. I would like to thank you and just remind you that April the 1st, ferry service does start. We would encourage you to join us on the ferry. Any questions?
Any questions for Joe?
Yeah, just one. On the Meridian Landing, do you have the schedule for that project yet?
Not as of yet. We just got the report back, so we're in the process of selecting and targeting which projects we'll be starting off with to get going on that. And I'd be happy to update in future meetings on that.
Yes, please. I look forward to that.
Any other questions? Motion to accept? Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Second. Sorry, fell asleep at the wheel.
Cast your vote. And it passes. Item D is a resolution authorizing the chairperson of the Oklahoma City Riverfront Redevelopment Authority to authorize expenditures in furtherance of trust purposes not to exceed $25,000 upon recommendation of the general manager or surrogate general manager. This has come about because There's been a few instances based on our scheduling for meetings and everything else that some safety items or the thing that comes to mind is some pipe we needed to purchase to fix fences and gates and so forth on our property. And so this would allow me to authorize purchase of that, expenditures for that, for those reasons, and get the project going or get the repairs done. You would still have to vote approval on it at the next River Trust meeting. Any other questions? Need a motion?
Second.
Cast your vote. And that passes.
Okay, she fixed. There we go.
Okay, next item, and I'm really enthused about this one. Item E is a memorandum of understanding among the Oklahoma City Riverfront Redevelopment Authority, the City of Oklahoma City, and the USS Oklahoma City Park Association for design and construction of a privately funded commemorative display featuring components of multiple USS Oklahoma City Navy vessels on the north shore of Wiley Post Park. This has been, we've been studying this for quite a long time and looking at different places to put it. It's finally coming to fruition, and I think, somebody going to speak about this? Looks like. I do want to recognize Tucker McHugh, retired Navy, and Don Peck, architect, out there in the audience. They've been very involved in this, along with Admiral Slavonic, and these people are not strangers to this kind of thing. They put together the USS Oklahoma Memorial in Pearl Harbor, and we all know what a great deal that was. So I appreciate their work in doing this. I think it's going to be a great project out there. So tell us about it.
Thank you. So Melinda McMillan Miller, Director of Oklahoma City Parks. Again, just in front of you is this MOU that we were working a lot, many months, working with our colleagues to kind of identify a location that everyone found agreeable. It was really important for the Park Association to put a spot that was very publicly visible, very easily accessible. We wanted it somehow tied to water, obviously, because it's a submarine. And so we really felt that somewhere along the river was going to be a really great opportunity. There's been multiple discussions back and forth and lots of reassurances and again, continued conversations about what that would look like. And working with Tucker McHugh and Don Beck, working on different renderings and working on site locations and addressing concerns about vandalism or graffiti and, how are we going to, as a city organization, commit to taking care of this once it's constructed. So I think we've come to a really good agreement between all of us. And so in front of you, there are some renderings that Mr. Beck had created, and also then, of course, an outline of the location on the north shore of the Oklahoma River of Wiley Post Park. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions. And of course, I welcome, if Tucker or Don want to come up and speak about it, they're welcome to.
I'd love for Tucker and Don just to come up for a second. They have worked for years. Come on up, guys. And Don did all the conceptual drawings. Tucker did all the communications with the Navy. I wish Greg, Admiral Slavonic, was here today. But just give us a little bit of what all you did, because it was a lot.
I'm Tucker McHugh, retired naval officer, and
Communications with
I'll be the
Navy.
co-chair
Wish
along with Greg
Admiral
Slavonic, who's
was
also
here today.
retired
But just
rear
give us
admiral
a little bit of what all
for
you
the
did.
USS
It was a
Oklahoma
lot.
Park Association. It's a Tucker tax McHugh, exempt retired naval officer organization. We have that all set up. And this is Don Beck. You probably all know him. He's an architect extraordinaire that built the USS Oklahoma Memorial, which was not in existence. The history of that, 429 sailors died that day, sailors and Marines, December 7th. Anyway, Don did that. So we're going to use Don again. And the history of that, 429 sailors died that day. The submarine is decommissioned. It's in Bremerton at the submarine disposal base where the nuclear reactor is cooled down. Takes quite a long time to do that. And then they kind of cut it up into three pieces: the forward part, the operating area, and then the nuclear area. So, but I can't give you a specific date when the sail and the dive planes will be available for the namesake city, but it should be within a year, and so we think we'll have something finished maybe within a year or two, according to the Navy, whatever they decide. But that's our intent. If we get the land, we'll put up a coming soon sign, if you will. I'd be glad to entertain any questions that you.
The thing that's really interesting is that if we, David, can you go back to one of the renderings?
I'll pull it up.
He talked about the sail, and that's what the layman probably calls the tower on the stuff. That's the thing that sticks up above the hull, and the dive planes on the side of it. That will be the actual unit from the USS Oklahoma City. Don is going to create a park that the outline of the exact size of the sub is what you see there, that would represent, people would get a perspective of how big that submarine is. And I'm really,
It's longer than a football field.
I think it's something that's really going to be unique down there, and again, I'm looking forward. And it's going to have other things around it related to not only the USS Oklahoma City, but related to the Navy in general. It's items that maybe, I don't know, whatever we can get that's not classified, maybe a mock-up of a missile or something to show the what Navy's involvement down there. And I just think it's going to be really unique.
There's two Oklahoma cities. One's a surface vessel, which is during World War II, Vietnam, and then it was sunk in 1995 off the coast of Guam. And then there's the follow-on vessel, which is the USS Oklahoma City submarine. In honor of both vessels.
The only other thing I'd like to mention is Mayor Norick, Gary Mars, David Greenwell, and Debbie Martin were incredibly instrumental in all of this. I don't know if you know the story, but Debbie was our liaison with the Navy for the USS Oklahoma City, dating back, I think, to 1988, when it was first commissioned. And there were about 10 or 15 of us that went to the decommissioning last May in 2022, and Debbie received the highest civilian honor for her service as the liaison to the USS Oklahoma City. And Debbie wanted to be here today, but she's sick, and she'd probably be mad at me for telling all this about her, but she deserved it. We got great hats, and it was a wonderful day. And so it's a great project. I'm very proud of it, and I'm glad I played a small part with it.
I might just add to that a little bit. Debbie Martin's the treasurer of this city.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Okay, what we're doing here today is they need this MOU agreed to so that they can show to people, they're going to have to start fundraising, so they can show to people that they have a site locked in and that it's going to happen, so they can start their fundraising. From here, Don will go ahead and finalize the plans on it. I think the River Design Committee would have to look at it, and our own River Development Committee will look at it, and then it'll come back to us at some point for final approval.
And one other thing, our great Parks Director, she did an outstanding job because this was really complicated, finding a place where it would work, and some of us, including me, had some really dumb ideas, but she came up with the good ideas, so
Yeah.
hats off to her.
Yeah, and for the viewing audience, we looked at everywhere. We looked from Lake
Lake
Hefner,
Hefner.
Eisenhower, the plaza out there.
Yep.
Just anywhere that would kind of be around water, that the sub would be kind of not out of place. So, but I think it's going to be an excellent ending to the park and along the river, and especially when people can drive up to it or get on the river cruisers and look at it. So it's going to be a huge deal. I'm really excited about it. Any questions, comments? Don, you good, or you won't say anything?
Man said it all.
We have been working a long time. When we started, we didn't have gray hair. There's only going to have hair left when we finish. But I appreciate the opportunity to get to work, downtown, and I think it's a great tribute to the city. And as Mark mentioned, there's a lot of great people who were involved in making this happen. So I'm just happy to be part of it, and pleased that the city of Oklahoma City thinks enough of our veterans and our military to honor them this way, because if it wasn't for our military,
His
we
pay
wouldn't be
is,
standing here.
his pay is pro bono. Not getting anything but recognition, I guess.
On behalf of a grateful city and a grateful nation, I'd like to move for approval.
Very good. We have a motion?
Second.
It kicked me out.
Cast your vote.
Trustee Lyons, how do you vote? It had kicked me out
Well,
for
if
some
only the
reason.
machine could work as fast as we talk.
Yes.
And that passes. Thank you very much, guys. We look forward to this. I think it's going to be really neat. Okay. Where are we at? Item F is a revocable permit with the River Sport Foundation for the Central Youth Rowing Championship on May 6th and 7th, using the Boathouse District Regatta Park in the Eastern Basin. Do we have any questions? Need a motion?
Second.
Cast your votes. And that passes. Okay, item G, revocable permit with the River Sport Foundation for the Youth Rowing League Spring Championships on May 13th, using the same area. Motion?
Second. Yeah.
Cast your vote.
Trustee Stones.
And that passes. Item H is a revocable permit with the Red Coyote Running and Fitness for the Red Coyote Love Run 5K and 10K on June 24th, using the North River Trail, the Oklahoma City Community Foundation River Trail, located on the north side of the river. Motion?
Second.
Cast your vote. And that passes. Item I is a revocable permit with the River Sport Foundation. You have a lot of stuff going on, Mike. Okay, come on up. For the Stars and Stripes River Festival, June 24th, using the same area. Yes, sir.
Yes, I just wanted I thought it was timely and to mention that I was approached a couple of weeks ago by a group of people from the Navy from San Diego, and they are planning on bringing their Navy Day to Oklahoma City, and we're going to integrate it with the Stars and Stripes River Festival, and it'll be a big showpiece of the Navy and the Navy's presence in Oklahoma City, and they're going to bring out a lot of gear, the Navy band, and so I thought that might be also a great chance to promote this new project. So they're putting a lot into this, and it should be a really big deal. So we're really excited about that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike? Second.
Cast your vote. And that item passes. Item J, another permit with River Sport Foundation for the River Bowl, August 12th. Mike talked about this in his presentation. So it's going to, sounds like it's going to grow bigger every year. So Any questions? Need a motion?
Second.
Cast your vote. That passes. Item 6 is the claims docket. Have any questions? Need a motion?
Second, sorry.
Cast your vote. And that item passes. Item 7 is comments from staff. We have the Park and Recreation Director's report.
Hello, me again. I don't have anything additional to add to the report. Unless you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions on her report? Motion to receive that?
Second.
Cast your vote. That passes. Item 8 is comments by trustees. Any comment? Item 9, comments by citizens. Do you have any citizens want to be heard? Very good, we are adjourned.